analysis.
10 hours ago, 80,000 dead. Ground zero was the Urinext exchange.
How's it feel?
You think I wanted this? You OGA guys are even more fucked up than I'd heard you were. I'm trying to stop this from happening in New York.
Who do you think did it, Sergeant?
The PLR and Solomon.
Well, the blast yield matches Russian suitcase nuke specs. We put Dima in country at the same time. Do you know how that looks?
Dima was trying to stop it. The Paris nuke must have been one of the missing ones.
Bullshit. Then what? Didn't you still let it happen?
Sergeant, go back in time to the bank. You said the Paris nuke links to the bank.
Can't be, Dima. Can't be.
I am waiting.
I sent out a distress call. Anvil 3, part of Charlie Company First Tax. They came to get us. Miller came to get us.
Miller, put the dinosaur down. It's go time. Miller, stop playing around. We're gonna be all right, Miller. Hey, you'll be back in time for his birthday.
Hey everyone, Broman Jenkins here, and welcome back to Battlefield 3. This is actually done in post-production, this being the audio. I could not possibly use the audio I had from this level because I had to cut out large sections of the level. This was initially a 36-minute recording, and it's something like a 22-minute now. So, 20 minutes and 55 seconds actually. So, it's pretty close. It's a long level. It's filled with stuff like this where I'm just straight up riding through the desert and watching background effects. And other sections where I had to cut because I died. This is an interesting level from a few perspectives. It's very similar to the Jet level, where they changed a lot of the mechanics of how the tanks work from multiplayer to single player, so people could actually get through the level. Unfortunately for me, that means that I kept overshooting all the enemy targets, because one of the changes they made to the tanks, one of the very few changes they really made to the tanks, I should say, is that they fire apparently sabot rounds this time around. Instead of the normal drop the rounds, you get a pretty healthy distance before any drop actually occurs. So you'll see it when we focus on the first set of enemies. They have drop, and they have an insane accuracy on that drop. But my rounds really don't drop. Now, I don't really ever use zoom optics on the tank, and I don't use the thermal vision that they're going to give me as well. So this was a little jarring for me. You'll see me flip to thermal vision a few different times when I actually meant to zoom in, and that's just an annoying little thing. What they do that is kind of nice, watch this, barely misses me, and I wasn't even moving when he fired it. But you'll see here, I start firing way above where I need to for where the round's going to drop. But one of the things they do that is really nice for this level is that they actually included the little carrots over the enemy tanks, which means I can actually see them like you normally would in multiplayer. And you can see I'm getting rocked. If I stay still for more than a second, they nail me. But if you keep moving, they're pretty much not going to hit you. Oh, except for that one. The tank in this has regenerating health from basically 0 to 100 pretty quickly. You can see once they stop moving, I'm okay. But hitting a moving target in this tank is almost impossible. It's just a very weird thing because I'm expecting drop and I don't get any. And I can't lead them for shit for whatever reason. Usually I'm pretty decent with the tank. I'm not amazing. There are some guys who can sit in a tank pretty much all day, the same way some people sit in a jet and never even take damage despite the fact they have an entire team working against them. Unfortunately for me, I'm not that way, and this mission was hard even testing my tank abilities because of that. So, one more set of enemies here. So thermal vision and the zoom sight can obviously be used in tandem, which is pretty nice. Thermal vision and zoom are, of course, both things you can get in multiplayer on tanks. Look at that. That was a perfect shot. Like I said, IR smoke and reactive armor and such, or autoloader even, are way more useful. In multiplayer tank battles, are kind of a war of attrition. It's kind of sad, actually, because it's the person who shoots first and has reactive armor will win tank battles, unless the other person is really good or they're really dumb. And it's interesting, because if it's a tank on tank, head-to-head collision, you will win that battle if you were the first to shoot. You'll probably end up disabled and having to hop out and repair, or go ahead and abandon your tank and just blow it up so the enemy can't have it. It's pretty bad. And you can see that it tells me smoke's ready on the left there, but I can't use it. Alright, we're switching to MAV feed. MAV is a recon tool in multiplayer. I think there's going to be more use of it in the single player, I don't know. But it's just basically a little UAV thing that you can hover around and use it to spot enemies or as a motion sensor. In this scene, it is absolutely pointless to even use it. It's just so that you can see that there was an airstrike on this base. You can't actually do anything with it. You can't target anything different. You can't do anything that will actually cause this airstrike to be successful, really. This is a scriptedly bad airstrike. And it doesn't even kill the people who got hit by it. See, right there, those guys just survived running through all the missiles that hit the base. So, that means that we get to go drive up there and assault that area, which I believe I cut out most of the approach to it. It's really just to drive up, and then it turns out that the guard posts and such, and you'll see me probably fire on one at least, they're invincible. Okay, here, this is where the second time through I figured out, oh yes, he's actually changing to a different type of shell there. So these shells may drop a little bit, I'm not entirely sure. So here's the assault on this little base. As you can see, the ground popped into existence there. And these shells do have a little bit of drop. I'm now firing on tanks that are gone. The shells pass right through it. And right there you can see I actually switched to the machine gun for a moment. Oh, and I just shot right through that thing. So the machine gun is the coaxial LMG from the single player campaign, which is a overall really useful weapon. It means that you don't have to worry about infantry or reloading shells quick enough to face infantry. It's basically a starter unlock. Actually, it is a starter unlock as soon as you get into a tank. And in this, it tells you to hit the right D-pad to switch to it, but you can just hit Y, just like in normal multiplayer. This section is a little longer than it needs to be, really. I meant to use thermal vision there, but works all the same. These guys are just hiding out with RPGs, and right there I hit the box next to him, but I didn't hit him. So let's just knock over some walls and have a fun time with it. This, maybe a little bit of overkill on some of these guys, I'll admit it. It's still kind of fun to drop a tank shell on people every now and again. This mission, by the way, has absolutely no bearing on the storyline. It's very similar to the F-18 mission from earlier, where it's just there so you can put a tick mark on the back of your box that says, single player campaign featuring, jets, helicopters, and tanks, and stuff like that. And what's the back of the box even say? It's like full battlefield experience. It's right here. Hold on. Yes. Let's see. Real as hell single-player combat delivers a true warrior's experience in the global war of tomorrow. Oh, they don't even mention that you can get into a tank, a jet, or a helicopter. I guess it's just stuff you expect out of this game. Right there, that cut was actually because I died in this section. As I mentioned, the lack of drop on this stuff, it makes it really hard for me to hit things. And right there I tried to shoot that helicopter down. You can shoot helicopters down with a tank in multiplayer. It's actually very common if the helicopter pilots are dumb. But also, if you rank up high enough with a tank, you'll get what's called a third seat, and you can have somebody sighting things with a laser designator, as I've mentioned before. That guy has insane range. So you'll see me aiming way above these guys, but I had figured out what this pattern was last time through. These two guys are kind of just there. They're red herrings. You're actually waiting for the guys to appear on the left in a moment. And I go ahead and tank snipe them because of the lack of ability for me to shoot correctly in a one-on-one equal fight. So I go ahead and get a little bit cheap. Of course, I'm still getting hit by these guys, even though they're on the other side of that ridge. So, look at that, backed right into it. As you can see here, I'm kind of trying to find a good spot where I can barely see them and they can barely see me. Oof, more very close shots. And this is... that's not what I meant by tank sniping. But these guys, if you stay still for like a second, all of them focus right on you and take you out. And I imagine that's because, yes, right there, see? That was a good shot, sorta. I was trying to take out at least one more, but that's not happening. We have to chase them down anyways. I have to imagine that your friendly tanks are actually scripted to die in certain spots or not die at all. Yeah, spoiler alert for a mission with no story. And because of that, the enemy tanks are simply targeting you ahead of other tanks. It's very possible that that's not a good explanation at all, but that seemed to be what it was. And here, you actually have boost in the tank in single player, just like you do in multiplayer. So that's a good thing, because tanks can't get up hills for shit. I'm actually... ooh, boy. Yeah, that was a dumb move. Tanks have a very limited up-down motion, though they do have full 360-degree rotation, which means that if you have an enemy that is higher above you, say you're close to a building and you want to hit something on top of it, you're probably not going to be able to aim that high. However, if you have someone very close to you, you're also not going to be able to aim low enough to directly hit them. You can kill very easily through splash damage, however, by firing at the ground right near the person, and you'll usually get them out pretty quick. You might do a little bit of damage to yourself, but not too much. Yeah, but this mission really, as a tank person, only faces you with tanks and guys with rocket launchers, so you're not really too worried about that. We're entering a part of the level I thought was actually kind of interesting. It's more of a full-on assault move. The red cannon over there was just, or the red Dorito of death over there was just another single tank that we had to take out. But this is an interesting section. You get a little bit of city combat sort of thing as you enter into this unnamed town of some description or go through the highway. And I think this is actually part of a map that was used for Tehran Highway, the multiplayer map that almost no one likes. This is also a very kind of odd section because there is a section where I will get out on foot to fight through this. But you can see kind of the destruction. It was nice of the Iranians to clear off the highway after we blew everything up on it. And this section really should have been cut. It's very hard to tell if something is actually happening in these sections when you edit them without checking in on them every few minutes, because it does bounce back and forth. This section is actually kind of fun. It's a little extended because I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. But you'll see. I'm actually frozen in place at that moment, but it looks like it let me go. And I thought they were gonna let me stay back there instead of going way forward. And obviously what you want to do is have your tank gunner / pilot jump out of the tank and... oh, it disappeared. I didn't even see that the first time through. It simply disappeared. Wow. Actually, you can't shoot in this section either, so if you get shot, I don't think it's possible, but if you did, you wouldn't be able to return fire until you talk to this very important person up here who you cannot tell who's talking. Actually be quiet so you can try to figure that out for yourself.
Ambushed us. Shot us to shit before we were ready. I just need someone to get to the trigger and detonate it. Somebody's gotta get out there, but it ain't gonna be me.
Yes, the game is now being very subtle to tell me to go run for that thing. I think it was the guy on the ground moaning and wailing. When I was playing this, the sound from my speakers was not really being effective as it usually is, and it was coming from like just straight ahead of me at all times instead of sounding a little bit to my left or right. And when I walked up to characters, it didn't sound any closer or further away. And I've got another M4, and I'm using it, or this looks like an M16, but somebody who knows guns will actually probably have to correct me on this one. I'm using it in the semi-auto fire mode, and that actually worked pretty well. So all you had to do was pick up this thing and then run back because you're trying to blow a roadblock here. So let's just pop over. I think you can still get shot doing this. The tank's just firing right past my head. Oh, it's ridiculous. And instead of pulling that out like a C4 in multiplayer, you had to just hold B and it automatically did that for you.
Fucking shotgun's gonna make me puke. Good going, bro. Good work.
So these guys are still firing on us, but there's still plenty of level left.
Get back!
And I couldn't, because I lost track of the tanks when I jumped in mine, or jumped out of mine, had no idea where this was. It looks like you get invincible as soon as you get back up on the tank, which is fine by me. And you decide to use the machine gun. Now, the machine gun in multiplayer, very similar to the Humvee in the second mission, as I mentioned, that is usually controlled via computer by somebody inside the tank in the game. But for this section, it makes a little bit more sense to have them outside the tank. And we'll get to why that is in a moment. But this thing has... I later criticized it for not having great accuracy in the next level, which is also a tank level, but it's very quick. But in the next level I kind of criticize it, and then I just mow down a bunch of people. And I guess it's a perceived inaccuracy. Luckily this is a pretty brief section here. It's... oh boy. That rocket I think hits me, yeah, directly. As you can see, there are some pretty significant tracers when you fire this thing, and you can really tell where your targets are hitting. One of my favorite pastimes in multiplayer is getting in a tank with somebody who's pretty decent at measuring the shots in the main cannon. And I have zoom optics on my LMG, or my machine gun, and I'll just be able to tell him if he missed or shot above or below. And through that you can kind of range find on distant targets. It's pretty fun. Anyways, this section is basically suicide cars and shooting down people on the side of the road. I don't know why they thought it was a good idea for them to just keep continuously small arms firing at a tank, like it was going to do something, but some of these guys have RPGs, and my tank seems very enthused about the idea of just slamming every one of them into the body of the tank as possible. Ooh. Fire! Oh, see? More of these guys. They die in new and interesting ways every time. But it's a pretty nice little section. It's a little variation on what... oh yeah, I blew that up way before the game told me to. It's a nice variation on what you get in a lot of first-person modern military shooters, in that instead of being on a helicopter while you're doing this stationary gun thing, you're actually moving around in a tank instead, and you're kind of on level with these guys who might be a credible threat to you. We're in a helicopter gunner or something like that. It's, you know, it's like, oh yeah, well, they're firing RPGs at me that miss me half the time. In this section you can die, and I didn't, but I'm pretty sure you can anyways. And actually, there's a fun little glitch coming up in a moment. But first, suicide cars. Those things have inordinate amounts of health. And I think it was so that scripted event right there could go off. Of course, someone can correct me if that was not a scripted event and I just let a friend die. I mean, that guy showed up for long enough, I thought. So right now, we're kind of stuck while they try to deal with the tank that got blown up. And there are apparently... no, what the hell are they stopped for? I can't figure that out. But there are more of these cars coming. And this is like a few minutes of just cars coming at you and you trying to defend the tank from these guys up here. And this is kind of where the glitch comes in. You'll see it in a moment and I'll point it out. But I assumed that my gunner would be taking care. Well, that guy was me apparently, just driving right past the target and then blowing himself up anyways. I figured my gunners would probably be a better choice to take out these tanks, or these V-beds as they call them, the explosive-laden vehicles, but no, they don't fire at them at all. I have to do it with my machine gun, which I guess they're hoping I'll just hit the driver or something. I don't know. But right up here, there's also guys up here, and you can see there's many of them just falling up and down, up and down, up and down. There we go. Finally locked into place. We're tired of phasing. I don't even think I hit those guys, because most of the time you get a hit marker of some nature, but not that time. Okay. So with that, we're pretty much done this level. There's just a little bit left, but it's nothing really major. It's just leaving the city and all that. So I hope everyone enjoyed this, and there will be at least one more post-commentary level of this game, because it was such a boring mission I had to do it. So I hope to see everyone soon. Thanks for watching.